What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the Audi RS7 Sportback. So I would say this car is insanely wanted by many players. Not only is the RS7 going to be wanted, but a lot of players also want the RS6. Luckily that car is going to be in Motorfest, but if you do want to move over the RS7 though, and or the RS3, you're going to have to wait till Season 2. But my goodness, having all of these Audis in Motorfest is going to be insane. But nonetheless, guys, the RS7 is still one of my favorite cars because I do love the way this thing does look. I also only believe I've only seen one of these cars in real life, so that is kind of unfortunate. I know the RS7s are pretty dang rare, at least in the USA. But nonetheless, though, here are the colors for this car. So for me, I'm probably going to do this like dark blue. I really do think that looks absolutely insane on this vehicle. But moving over to the visual parts, and I'm really still surprised we actually got new Audis on the Crew 2 because I did think something was going on with Audi with some of these car games. At least that's going to be Need for Speed anyway, because there is none on Need for Speed Unbound, which I would say that game's going to be heavily forgotten at this point. But who actually would love Need for Speed to be good again? I feel like everybody. But one thing's for sure though is I was going to make a video about this in the future. I really do think Motorfest is going to basically give Need for Speed a running for their money by basically just the car list alone. I feel like is going to hurt Need for Speed pretty hard. But as you guys can see, by the way, with this, that is a lot of carbon fiber. What's kind of interesting though is I have to admit, this doesn't actually look as bad as I thought. That does actually look kind of cool. I'm still trying to figure out what those blue things in the headlights are. What are those? Are they like tags or I don't know. But moving over to the next parts though, you're going to see more of these like racing splitters. And do keep in mind, guys, this thing is also going to have a wide body kit. My goodness, look at the carbon on that. Look at that design. It's kind of insane because normally they don't fit that well, but that actually fits pretty nicely. And if you were to do the wide body kit, that would probably fit a bit better. So moving over, let's see actually. So this is the wide body kit, guys. So if you were to add this to the car, head back to the front bumpers. So as you can see, having the wide body kit with this actually fits really well. And you'll notice the fitment and stuff with this car also looks really nice. So I really do have to give it to them with that. Like, that does look awesome. We can be honest, sometimes a lot of the vehicle's body kits don't look that great, but the recent cars in the Season 9 update, guys, have been absolutely insane. And every single car I've used so far in this update, guys, from the Audi RS3 to the Bugatti Divine Edition and the lovely Lancia Stratos as well, every car has been so fun to use, and my goodness are they insanely good as well for the most part. Like, obviously some of them are probably not the best, but at least a lot of these vehicles really do have some character to them. And by the way, this car also has some nice rims available, so we also have these. Kind of like those a bit. Then we also have those, which are basically like the blacked out version of them. To be honest though, for me, I would probably go with these over here. I like how these look on this car, at least with this color. And if I was to spec out an RS7, this is most likely how I would do it. So moving over to the brake calipers. So the big question is, can I actually replicate this blue color? I'm most likely not going to be able to, but that looks kind of close. That's still off though with the shading. That's a little bit closer. I'll probably just go with this one, to be honest. That's a bit darker like the color. But from what I've seen, I would say this is probably going to be the closest blue I can get because you can't customize the colors to a T. And then moving over to the mirror, so we have the painted ones, which look really nice. Actually like those more than carbon. Moving over to these skirts now, so the stock ones look painted in the middle. Then we have like an aluminum type of color. Then we have the carbon, that looks nice. And then for the next skirt is also going to be wider, which is most likely made to match the wide body kit. So at least we do have an option for those. And then speaking of wide body kits, guys, check this out on the back of this car. Like, it's fitted perfectly. I would say personally, I probably wouldn't do this to an RS7, but if you actually had the option to wide body one of these, that would look absolutely insane. And I have to give them credit for actually making this fit. Looking at GTA right now, but moving over to the next part for the rear wing. So here's the second one that actually blacks out the letters. That is really cool. That's something I would also do. I do like having like the blacked out letters, especially on this nice darker blue. Then we're going to have this wing. Then we have the carbon in. It looks like a carbon roof. Looks pretty nice. Then we have that wing, which looks crazy. So for me, I'll probably go with the second one, which makes like the black letters on the back there. And then of course getting to the last part of this, guys, is going to be the rear bumper. So here's the first one. Then we have this, which blacks out the taillights. Then we have a colored rear bumper there. Looks kind of odd on the bottom. Kind of nice, but I kind of do like the black down there more. Ooh, carbon looks really sweet. I'm going to have to go with that one. Then we have the blacked out taillights. Okay, I'm wrong. I'm going with that one. Then moving over, oh my. See, what's kind of insane though is a lot of these bumpers do look weird, but that actually doesn't look that bad though. Then we'll have this one with obviously blacked out taillights. I really do think a lot of players are going to absolutely love this car, guys. Like, I think this thing is sweet. Now, one thing for the inside, though, is I'm probably going to go with the yellow stitching. I feel like that would match, like, the outside of the blue of this car. So, moving over here, so we have this. And then is that like a... So, it's like a nice black, like, painted piece there. Let's go with the carbon fiber. That will basically do it. So for me, guys, I'm probably going to admit something. This is probably one of my favorite looking cars I've ever used on the Crew 2. Like the overall customization, the look you can get. This thing looks absolutely insane. Plus, I'm a big fan of the RS7, so that would probably be a big piece of that. But without further ado, let's go do an outside look of this vehicle right now and do a quick top speed test. So when looking at this car in the outside view, it is unfortunately nighttime, but you can still see that really nice dark blue color, and I still cannot figure out what those like bluish purple things are in the headlights, but the overall look of this RS7, guys, looks absolutely insane, and if I was to spec one of these out, I would most likely make it look just like this one. Who knows, maybe one day I will definitely go after one of these because I do love how these cars are, and I would say for like a sports car, this would probably be a pick of mine. And then obviously for like off-road, I would probably pick like the TRX. But the Audi RS7 really is going to be an absolute gem. And what's kind of insane is we also have the RS6 in Motorfest. And I also saw something about like the new Audi R8 being in there. So Motorfest is legit going to be an absolute party with this car list. Not only does this car look great, that V8 sounds incredible. So moving over to the interior view of this RS7, the first thing I actually notice is how nice the interior is compared to the RS3. Like for example, guys, you can actually see all of the letters and stuff on the steering wheel, and all the buttons are actually visible and insanely clear. You can also see everything on the screen and or the bottom screen clear as day, and I really do love the carbon wrapping around this car, plus the yellow stitching. I really do think I'm in love with this thing right now, but... And then looking at the dash on this car though, it's also going to be very similar and or exactly like the RS3, most likely because, you know, they're both Audis, but you do see the RPM, the gear indicator, and or the speed you are going, and the G meter was also on the RS3 as well, so I have to give them credit. The overall detail in this car is insane. But now moving over to the top speed test of the RS7, so for this car, guys, it is going to redline insanely quick, and the main reason for that is it is going to be an 8 speed, which is kind of insane because many new cars do tend to be 8 to 10 speeds. I would like to know your thoughts on that, by the way. Would you guys prefer like an 8 to 10 speed, or would you rather have like a 6 speed? I do know it helps gas mileage and stuff, and I'm sure it probably does help performance of some vehicles, but let's see what the RS7 can actually get to. So right now in 7th gear, which is kind of interesting, I'm actually doing around 228 miles an hour, which funnily enough is going to be the Celine S1's top speed in max gear. So this car is probably going to be insanely quick, but let's see what I can get it to. So going into 8th gear right now, let's see what I can get it to after this hill. I figured this car has a lot of room in the RPM, so it's most likely going to be insanely fast. So hitting the nitrous now. Wow, 250, it's still pushing 260. Whoa. Look at this, guys. 282 miles per hour. It probably would hit like 283 to around 284 miles an hour. We now have the fastest street car in the game. The Audi RS7 basically annihilates the other vehicles with its top speed. And I do have a feeling it's most likely going to be nerfed like the VR4, but let's keep our fingers crossed and hopefully it's not going to be insanely nerfed, but we definitely have to jump into a race to really see how this car performs. Okay, so in testing out the RS7, there's a few things I did notice about this car that I do want to share with you guys. So the first one, obviously you all did see this car hit around 280 miles an hour, which is honestly pretty insane. Now I would say a lot of players might actually be concerned that this car could be overpowered. Now I'm going to say this car is definitely not going to be overpowered in one specific way. So yes, this car is going to be an 8-speed, but one thing I noticed though guys is the top speed is going to be 226 miles an hour. So in 7th gear the car does hit around 228. So technically you are doing the top speed around 228 miles an hour in 7th gear. So you're really not going to be able to go faster with just accelerating. And the only way you can actually hit around 280 is if you actually use your nitrous and or basically pump it all the way to 280 miles an hour. So if you were to do that, after 230 the car basically goes backwards with acceleration. So in order to get this car to hit 280 you actually have to accelerate and or hit your nitrous basically the entire time to push it to like 250 and then 260 and so on. So the RS7 is not going to be like overpowered when it comes to its overall top speed because hitting 280 miles an hour for one is not going to be the easiest thing to do, plus you also have to have a nitrochemist set and that's going to be the only way to actually get there. So I really don't think this car is actually going to be nerfed in the future, although I would say they could probably do it like they did with the VR4, but that car also got to its top speed a tad easier. And the overall acceleration on the RS7 Sportback does also seem to be pretty dang good as well. So yes, it is an 8-speed, so you will have to shift it often, at least if you are using manual, but I would say it's going to make it a lot more fun. The only thing I would have to get used to is basically finding that right gear around corners, because I'm not used to having 8 gears with these cars because I normally do have 6, so that really isn't going to be an issue though, because the more you use the car, the more you would most likely get used to how the transmission does work on it. Now one thing I did notice about the RS7 is it is going to turn insanely similar to the RS3, and I would say that's not going to be a bad thing, but going around corners at a higher speed, I was noticing the front end of this car does tend to come up a bit, which is kind of odd, but it's most likely the way they probably designed it. And having a car that can actually hit well over 270, I would probably say it has to be nerfed in some way. That way it's not going to be like insanely overpowered, or the car's going to get insanely nerfed like the VR4. But overall though guys, the RS7 is going to be an absolute blast to use. Not only does this car look insanely amazing, but it also has some nice customization, and it also has some great overall speed, plus some good handling. I normally run something like the Carrera 4S, so for me, I'm probably going to try out the RS7 Sportback in the upcoming summits, especially if the events are going to be no restriction, just to see what this car can do, and to really see how it does compete, especially against some of the better street cars. Is that higher top speed going to make it like the best street car in the game? To be honest, I would probably say no to that, but overall this car is definitely insanely fun to use. I would like to know your thoughts on this RS7 Sportback in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more insight.